Welcome to the Unit 4 Lesson 5 notes. Go ahead, pause the video and work out these 5 warm-up problems where you're solving the proportion using either the horizontal or the vertical strategy. When you're done, unpause it and see how you did. So for this first one, I'm going to simplify 4 over 8 to 1/2 first. I'm going to multiply across by 9 to get that y equals 18. Number 2, I have to simplify to 1 over 4, and then I can use my horizontal method times by 4 to get y equals 4. Number 3, I don't have to simplify anything. I can just use the horizontal method of multiplying by 3 to get y equals 6. On number 4, you can simplify. You do not have to. I'm going to divide by 2, going from right to left to get that y is equal to 2. And the last one, I could do the vertical method times 5 to get y equals 5. 1 times 5 is 5. Now we're going to do a couple of review type questions. So remember, for these questions, I like to go, the box number is 1, and then there are 4 circles. In box 2, there are 5. In box 3, there are 6. In box 4, there are 7. And we want to write the rule. We're going to say a box number, we're going to use n is the box number, and we're going to use C for the number of circles. So the rule, the number of circles is going to be equal to, well, the difference between all of these, the box number to the number of circles, is 3. So it's equal to the box number plus 3. So how many circles are in the 20th box? That'd be 20 plus 3, which is 23. So there are 23 circles in box 20. That would be our final answer. It's important to make sure you're paying attention to whether or not this 3 goes with the C or the N. If you did C plus 3 equals N, that would be wrong. If you did C minus 3 equals N, that would be perfectly okay. That'd be an equivalent form, but we want to write C by itself because we're going to say that's our output. Okay, basic, same principle here. Box 1 has 4, box 2 has 8, box 3 has 12, box 4 has 16. So we're using the same variables, so this time our number of circles is equal to 4 times the number of boxes, 4n, or 4 times n. We get that because 1 times 4 is 4, 2 times 4 is 8, 3 times 4 is 12, and 4 times 4 is 16. So in the 12th box, we do 4 times 12. That is 48. So there are 48 circles in box 12. Now we've got a couple of percent problems. There's a few different ways you can do these problems, so I'm going to go through pretty much each of those ways. So first, it says I painted one wall of my living room and it took me 90 minutes. I painted the second wall and my time decreased. Remember, decreased means get smaller by 20%. How long did it take me to paint the second wall? So one way you can do this is just by multiplication. If it's decreasing by 20%, if I take 100% minus 20%, that equals 80%, and as a decimal, that is 0.8. So if it decreased by 20%, that means it took me 80% of the time that it took originally. So I could just take 90 minutes times 80%, which as a decimal is 0.8, and then multiply, and say it took me 72 minutes to paint the second wall. That would be the way I would do it, probably the faster way. Now, another way you can do it is figure out how much time you actually saved. So if I want to figure out how much time I actually saved, I want to think of these things as kind of proportions, right? Which is what we did here, just kind of in a secret fashion. So if it took me 90 minutes for one wall, right? And I want to decrease by 20%. it took me 90 minutes for 100% of the wall. So I could think of this as the percents as kind of like a gauge, a marking. So I could say 90 minutes for 100%. Right? And then that's going to be equal to, if I'm decreasing by 20%, again, I go down by 80%. Figure out what this is. Now I'm figuring out this proportion. All you're doing is what we just did right here. It just, the setup looks a little bit different. I personally feel like what I did in red makes way more sense and it's easier to understand, but you might think differently. All right. I could also figure out this. Sorry about that. I could figure this out for how much time I saved and then subtract, which I'll show you once this thing comes back. All right, so if X was how long it took me to paint that wall. All right, because what I would be doing is I'd have to simplify, right? I would be able to just have 9 over 10. Well, 10 times 80, or excuse me, 10 times 8 is 80. 9 times 8 is 72. Okay, time to paint. Now, I could also do it the number of minutes and to the percent again, where I do 90 over 100. And this time I'll say y over 20, where 20 is because that's how much time I saved. I went faster this time. Now if I do this, I'm not going to get 72 minutes. I'm going to have to do a little bit more work. So for this example, you could divide by 5. If you take 90 divided by 5, do that in longhand, you get 18. So if y equals 18, that means we saved 18 minutes. I need to go back and say it started with 90 minutes. I saved 18 minutes. It took me 72 minutes to paint. All three of these ways, the red, green, and blue, will give you the exact same answer. The red way is the absolute fastest way, but all of them work. I personally do not care which one you use, as long as you use one and show all of the work. For example, I stopped on this green one doing all of the work because I just said it's this piece right here. If you were doing the green way, you would not have written this, so you would not be able to say, oh, I did it up here. You have to write down everything that you did. You should write it as a full sentence. So my final answer is it took 72 minutes to paint the second wall. In 2015, a movie store sold 500 comedies. In 2016, the same store sold 400 comedies. What was the percent decrease in comedies sold? So again, there are multiple ways you can do this. The first way that I'm going to do is, what was the actual decrease? Well, the actual decrease was 500 minus 400 is 100. So they sold 100 less. So I'm going to compare that to how many we started with. So how many in 2015? Well, 500. So if I want to divide this out, it's 1/5, but I need to write that as a decimal, which is 0.20, which is 20%. So there was a 20% decrease. Again, that is one way to do it. Another way is to say, well, this year in 2016 compared to 2015, I'm going to put year out front here because I'm not actually comparing the numbers, 2016, 2015. 400 were sold and 500 were sold. If you simplify this, that's 4/5. As a decimal, that's 0.80, which means they sold 80% as many as before. But the question asked for what was the percent decrease. So how do you get from 100% to 80%? You go down 20%, so that's why there was a 20% decrease. So we're going to talk very briefly about tessellation. So tessellation is just a fancy math term. If you've ever seen someone do a tiling job, like tile floor or tiled countertop or something, where they just take the same shape and repeatedly put it together and kind of spreads out and makes a pattern, that's what a tessellation is. So like shape 1, we have this piece, and then we have more of that piece, and we put them together to make a bigger piece. And you just keep doing that process over and over and over and over again. That's all a tessellation is. So now there's a pattern happening. So if I just name this shape 1, shape 2, shape 3, shape 4, in shape 1 there is one triangle. In shape 2 there's 1, 2, 3, 4 little triangles. Shape 3 there's 9 and 16 in number 4 and so on. So there's a pattern here. This pattern is harder to see than any of the other patterns we've done so far. Okay, if I'm going up by 1 here consistently, I'm not going up consistently here. Now I'm going up 5 and then up 7. So it does not seem like there is a consistent pattern right at first glance. But what's happening is you're taking this number and multiplying it by itself. So 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 4 is 16. That's the pattern. So now if I said how many little triangles are going to be in shape 5, that's going to be 5 times 5, which is 25. So I would have 25 small triangles. All this is saying is 1 squared, 2 squared, 3 squared, 4 squared. That just means, and 5 squared, all that just means is the number 5 times the number 5, the number 4 times the number 4, and so on. Okay, so the formula, the equation here is the number of small triangles, they used T for small triangles, is equal to the shape number squared. So if I asked how many triangles in shape, I'll say shape 10. Well, T is equal to 10 squared, which is equal to 10 times 10. So T would equal 100. There'd be 100 triangles in shape 10, which is exactly what that says right there. The 10th shape in the pattern contains 10 squared or 100 small triangles. So algebra can help us think about patterns that may be too complicated or may be just too big of numbers to actually want to draw out. So we've got a problem here I'm going to have you do. I'm going to talk real quick about this picture because it's a little confusing if you don't really break it down. So it says each colored set of stars makes up a ring in the pattern. The black star in the middle of the pattern does not count as part of the pattern. Start with the 5 stars in the center ring, then work outward. So I'm going to highlight this first ring. Ring 1 has 5 stars. I'm going to highlight each of the rings. What I need you to do is fill in this table with ring number 1, 2, 3, 4, and how many stars in each one. I need you to write an algebraic equation and figure out how many rings there would be in the 8th ring of this pattern. All right, so here would be ring 2, ring 3, and ring 4. So go ahead, pause the video, work this out, and then come back and see how you did. So in ring 2, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. In ring 3, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And in ring 4, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So if I said, you might have used different letters, but if I said the ring, that variable is R, and the number of stars is going to be, I want to avoid S, because my S's kind of look like my 5s, so I'm going to put X. So the number of stars, X, is equal to the ring number times 5. So I'm going to write that a little bit neater. 5 times the ring number. Or if you said number of stars divided by 5 equals ring number, that would also work. So to figure out how many stars are in the 8th ring of the pattern, I would say number of stars in the 8th ring of the pattern is equal to 5 times 8, which is 40. Okay, there's one fill in the blank. There are 40 rings, or in the 40 stars in the 8th ring. So there you go. There was your lesson 5. Make sure you complete your lesson 5 homework, and I hope everybody has a great day.